Today, we're going to talk about growing your community using a Facebook group, getting into sponsored posts, and how you know when to finally cash out. Take it away, Tracie.
People don't know what they don't know, so they have questions, and nobody should be shamed in asking a question. And so that's my whole philosophy.
Hey there, I'm Jason Loxton, and this is Makin Bacon. We're all about helping you serve your fans, grow your income, and get the most out of your blog. Trying to learn everything you need to know about blogging can be really daunting. But luckily, there are people out there, like today's guest, who are willing to share their expertise. She started her first blog in 2009 and quickly grew it into a profitable business. As a result of her efforts, she sold that blog for six figures in October of 2019. She now teaches people how to start and run money-making blogs of their own. We're really excited to welcome today's guest, Tracie Fobes. Tracie, welcome to Makin Bacon.
Thanks for having me, Jason. I'm thrilled I get to be here and talk about one of my favorite subjects in the world, blogging.
I'm looking forward to hearing you talk about it and learning how I can keep moving my stuff forward as well.
Yeah, I think this will be really great, and hopefully we share some exciting and thoughtful nuggets for the people listening so they can walk away empowered and ready to turn their blogs profitable too.
I'm pretty sure we will. I heard you speak at the IFBC Virtual Summit, and you did an amazing job. I think those sessions are still out there, so if anyone listening hasn't checked out the Virtual Summit, go to the IFBC website, and you can download my presentation and Tracie's and a lot of other great speakers. I can't wait to dive into all the ways that you help out bloggers, but one thing I like to always start with is, what is it like around your dinner table on a typical day?
You know, it's usually we ask each of the kids, we don't usually say, how was your day? Because what kid responds with, I don't know, or it was okay. We ask them, what was a good thing that happened to you? Or, we follow up with if they had that test. Hey, how was that test today? Or in the summertime, did you guys have fun at the pool? Which friends did you see? Leaving those open-ended questions to get conversations going. But probably our most fun thing we do is we'll do trivia around the dinner table. Nice. And it's not simple trivia. A lot of it we do what they're learning in school. We'll do history, we'll do government, we'll do different things like that. We've even done current events just to see if our kids are staying aware of what's going on in our world and how it affects them. Like riots in France, when those were happening a long time ago, we talked about how that affects us as Americans. So those types of conversations that get them thinking and really taking them outside of what's happening in our little corner of the world and realizing there's much more going on than they realize.
I think that's such an important concept of we all kind of live in these bubbles and talk to people in the bubbles around us, and remembering that there are a lot of bubbles and they, everything affects everyone else. And we're learning that a lot, especially with the pandemic and everything else, that it's, keeping in mind all the different people out there and that what we do is affecting everyone around us is, I think, very important.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's, if we aren't doing that as parents, we're doing our children a disservice. I think we can talk about things in a way that works for them. Our kids are different ages, and the way we approach topics today has evolved as they've grown, because we can talk about things that we maybe would not have really approached when they were younger. And so it's really exciting, and I think important that we keep that in mind, not only what's going on around us, but also how we can shield our children, but at the same time, make sure that they're aware of things that are happening outside of our front door.
Yeah, I feel like there's only so much you can do to, protect them. That you also, part of protecting them is also giving them the tools that when they're exposed to things that you might not think that they're ready to be exposed to, but they know how to handle it and have kind of a tool set for how to respond.
Yeah, and we just love the dinner table for that because it's casual. We're not sitting down having a family meeting. We're just eating, and it's just conversation. It just kind of flows naturally. And I find if they're enjoying a good meal, it's funny. They'll usually sometimes divulge a little more and get more involved. And I don't know if they have this happy stomach thing happening or what's going on, but we'll take it.
I think we've all been, whether it's with children or just with friends, that sitting around a big meal and talking about what's going on. It's part of what we as most people like to do.
Exactly.
That's what makes being a food blogger so fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can imagine.
So speaking about communities, one thing that a lot of people talk about is using Facebook to grow their blogs. And there's a lot of different aspects to Facebook and things you can dive into. But I know you're a big proponent of using Facebook groups to build a community and kind of connect with your people. Can you talk a little bit about why you think they are so important?
Absolutely. So what we've noticed over the past several years is Facebook has evolved, and everybody claims it's a pay-to-play platform, which it is to some extent. So you have a page, and your page is really more your business card, if you want to look at it that way. This is how you are first introducing people to who you are. It's how people are going to find you. They're going to find your site. And so we have that aspect. But that's not where the magic happens. The magic happens in a group. People join Facebook groups every single day. You guys have probably seen those commercials that are on TV where Facebook is advertising their groups. One of my favorite ones is the things for dads to do with their daughters, and it shows all these dads taking their girls to baseball games, and it looks like so much fun. That's what we're hoping to do in our groups. Our groups are the community. That is where people get to know you. They get to know the person behind the blog, your beliefs, your philosophies. You network and you connect. And the more you can do that within your group, that leads to email signups, product sales, affiliate conversions, and things like that. Because think about your page. They don't know you and they don't get a chance to trust you. In your community, they do. You're helpful, you're nurturing, and they get to really pull back the curtain, if you will, to see the person behind the blog and to really get to know them. And that trust is invaluable because that's how you turn new members into stark raving fans who will gobble up everything you have to say and sell.
One of the things that's come up in a lot of podcast interviews lately is this concept of showing that there's somebody behind the blog. And I feel like your Facebook page is a lot like your blog, that you're kind of putting something out there and people, they know that somebody is typing it up and putting it out there, but you're not a real person to them in a lot of cases. And then using your Facebook group or replying to their comments, replying to their posts, like that's a way that people go, oh, wow, like, Tracie is a person, Jason is a person, and they just wrote back to me. It can really blow their mind in a lot of ways.
It is. It's funny because I'll respond and someone's like, oh my gosh, you responded. Almost like they're shocked that somebody's really reading that there's a real person there. I'm like, yeah, I'm right here. I'm watching what you're saying because for me, my group is an extension of my business. And I think that's how we have to approach it. But it's not a place where we're going to go in and just drop every link to every article we've ever written. Because think about if you're on a date and you're sitting across the table and that person does nothing but talk about themselves. You're kind of turned off, right? Well, it's that same theory in our groups. We don't want to just talk about us. So we have to find tools and things we can do to increase engagement and make people feel they're a part of us. And so once we can do that, then we get this unique opportunity to say, you know what, yesterday we were talking about the favorite type of pot we use when we're cooking in the oven. And here today, I've got this great article about my top 10 reviews of the best new pots that are out there you can buy. So it fits into that. It's a segue. So that's how we can use our groups effectively by letting people, again, get a little bit of information that is about their lives and putting that focus on them so they can talk about themselves rather than you talking about yourself all of the time.
So if someone out there doesn't quite understand, they might have seen the ads with groups, but they don't really understand what they are. Can you just explain a little bit more about how you create your own group? Because this isn't going to the KitchenAid group and posting in there. This is doing your own specific thing.
Exactly. So we all have a blog. And within most of us, again, we do a Pinterest, we do a Facebook page and things like that. But what you want to do with your community to really have a thriving group is you want to make sure that your group covers a specific topic. So for example, let's say I'm a financial blogger and I talk about budgeting and getting out of debt and saving money. Well, if I create one group for all of those things, am I really going to reach all of those people? No, but if I create 3 groups, where one group is strictly about budgeting, where that's all we talk about is budgeting, and another is all about getting out of debt. What you end up doing is creating this safe place where people can come and connect with people all over the world to discuss a common topic. So if I'm trying to get out of debt and there's somebody in the group who's maybe a little further ahead in their journey, he or she might be able to give me some insight or some tips of what they've worked. You feel like you've got people who get you, right? It's like, these are my people. They are where I am at in my place, in this place in my life. You can do, I've seen recipe groups where it's strictly Instapot, or it is strictly, baking, whatever the case may be. Your group is where you get to talk to people. You get to literally sit at your computer and type responses to people. They can type and respond back to you. So it is where connections happen. It's where growth happens. And that's why I feel like if you're not using a group right now, you're really missing out on a prime opportunity to find people who don't even know about your blog, because your group is searchable. And if I am somebody who's wanting to learn how to saute, I want to learn how to saute, and there's a group and that's all they do, well, I might be on Facebook and search for that and land in that group. I've never heard about you, but I found this group and that's all they are. And I pop in there and I see all this advice. Guess what? I'm hooked and I'm there to stay.
Yeah, it is amazing bringing in new people. And if your group does start to grow, it's promoted in a lot of cases by Facebook.
Exactly.
And I did a post that said, like, hey, I'm going to, like, what's your biggest challenge right now in Sous Vide? It's a Sous Vide group. And I said, I'll answer whatever questions you have and see what I can do to help out. And someone wrote back and said, who are you and why are you, like, qualified to give advice? And then like 10 people come in like, why are you in this group if you don't know who Jason is? Like, he created this group. It's for his blog. But they found me through the group. They didn't know that I have cookbooks or any of these other channels I'm on.
Yeah, exactly. And the more engaged your group is, the more Facebook is going to show that. I always say Facebook loves Facebook, right? It does not love anybody else. And so the more that you can get people staying on the platform and engaging with your content, the more they're going to reward you. So when we can do things in our group that does just that gets people talking and people engaged and leaving comments and getting in threads and things like that, Facebook is like, oh, this is an active group. Then it will align your group with other similar groups. So for example, mine's on blogging. So the more mine does well and has engagement, the more other people who are in other blogging groups see my group come up as suggested. They say, hey, you like ABC blogging, so you might like this one as well. So that's why we're doing this. Yes, it's part of our business, but the more we can make Facebook happy, the more Facebook is going to reward us by helping others find our groups.
And it is amazing when you start to build a little bit of a community and get some people posting and contributing, just how much it can start to take off. That you're, as a blogger, a lot of times I feel like you write a blog post, you put it out there, and then you get maybe a few comments on it if you're lucky. And you can look at your analytics and see like, oh, a few hundred people read this, which, like, if you think about it, is pretty cool, but emotionally it's not satisfying a lot of the time. We're on here, like, people will put a question and then you answer it and you're talking back, like you're having conversations with people, not just kind of putting information out there.
Absolutely. So for example, when I put that out there, when I approach sharing a link to an article, I cover a reason why I'm sharing this. We were just recently talking about this exact situation. Well, here's this article, it's going to help. And then every time someone leaves a comment, even if it's like, oh, this was so helpful, I respond back with, you're welcome. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Things like that, because the more we can do that, the better. I have a personal goal to respond to every comment in my group. That might sound really lofty, but it's really not that difficult because you don't usually get that many posts and that many comments happening. Even if I can't respond, I'll like, or I'll love, or I'll laugh with an emoticon on there just so people can see that, hey, Tracie saw this and she's responding to me. even if not through written text, at least through emotion to let me know she loved what I had to say and things like that. Because it all comes back to this, people want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And so when we can do that, then that makes them want to be more engaged. And I find when I'm responding to people, those are the people who tend to come out of their shells and are much more willing to ask the questions and help others and get my overall engagement up, which again benefits me in the long run.
It's also great for market research, just for without having to sit down and do it. Like, you're finding out what questions people have about your niche. What information are they looking for? What are they struggling with? And those are all perfect things for blog posts or courses or lead magnets. Like, they're amazing sources of kind of just informing where your blog should go.
Absolutely. And that's one thing, that's a tool I have used time and again. So one thing I do is if I happen to see a thread where somebody's asked some questions and I'm like, oh, that would be a great blog post, instead of me not writing it down or having to put it somewhere else, there's those 3 dots that you see in every Facebook group, and in there you can hit save. And so I literally have a treasure trove of links to groups that I have saved. So when I'm thinking about it's time to write an article, what I want to write about today, that's where I start. And then I take my keyword research from that to develop the content. When I'm thinking about a new course, I don't want to make something nobody wants, right? Nobody wants to make a course and have it flop and go nowhere. That is exactly where I go. That's where pretty much every course I have ever created came from. They came from Facebook groups, and not just my group, other people's groups as well. I pay attention when people are asking questions. And here's one thing I do there. I answer in other people's groups, and I become the expert in the other groups. And you know what happens? People find themselves they find their way over to my group because I've been helping, and they're like, well, who is this Tracie woman and why is she responding on like every comment? So they click my Facebook profile, and because I'm smart, and I have in my profile my website and all of my details for my business, they find where I'm at. And then they can they can get signed up for my email list, they get into my Facebook group, they find my products and things like that. So it's another tool I think that it's so often overlooked, that people think I should only be active really in my own, when you should really be very active in the other groups as well.
I think that brings up a good question, which is there's kind of this dead zone when you create a group between creating it and getting it ready, and then getting enough people in there that the 5% maybe that actually post is enough to start having posts in. How do you get those original people in there when you don't have an active group necessarily at the time?
Okay, that's such a good question. And it's the one thing I get a lot is people will say, I made a group, but nobody's there. I feel like I'm talking to myself. I get it. I've been there myself. So a few things that I do. Number one, if you have an email list, you need to be including a link to your group in your list. It can be a PS that's added. I've even done full-on emails where I talk about helping my people build their community and share how my group helped with that. And I direct them back to my group. So that can help. You can use that in any niche, like the mom niche, where you talk about, sometimes as a mom, we feel all alone. And if we had a place and how we have to support each other, and guess what? I have a group. You're going to want to join me. So it's the perfect segue for that. I also will link to it within my articles. I will put a statement in there. The other day in our Facebook group, somebody asked me, and I linked to my Facebook group, because people are reading that and they're like, oh, Facebook group, she has a group, and they instantly pop over. I don't promote my group in other groups because that's just tacky. I would never do that. I don't recommend that. But the more helpful I am, again, that's how people find me, because they start seeing you as an expert or somebody who's willing to help without being all self-promotional and talking about yourself all the time. You're providing value in the other groups. So that makes people think, wow, if they're providing value here, I can imagine how awesome it is in the group that they run. It's got to be amazing. So those are a few things that I use. One other thing you need to make sure you do is if you have that Facebook page, which I believe everybody should have a page, you can link your group directly to your Facebook page. So if somebody lands on your page, your group is showing to them that, hey, there's this group you can join. And then that way they will find their way to your group through that means as well.
With any gathering of people, of virtual, especially virtual, but virtual or in person, there tend to be a few certain jerks that come out of the woodwork. How do you handle those? How do you prevent it? What are your insights onto that?
All right. So one thing I tell every group owner to do, when you make a group, you can establish rules and questions. So when somebody comes to join your group, you've probably seen them where you come in and they've asked a bunch of questions or they show rules and you're thinking, how in tarnation did they do that? Facebook sets it up for you. In fact, Facebook establishes set rules and you can toggle a switch that says someone must agree to your rules before they join. In those rules, you put your tolerance policy. For instance, in mine, I have a zero tolerance on self-promotion. If somebody comes into my group and the first thing they do is drop a link to their site, guess what? You're gone. Because my group is not there to use as your free platform to advertise your website. So that's just one example. You can have drama. If you start drama, you're gone. What I will do is I moderate. If somebody is getting out of control, I'll delete their comment. And I have zero problem with that. Again, because it's within my policies. If they continue to do it, they get kicked out. I don't hold any punches. I don't owe anybody in my group anything. They're not paying to be there. If I was a paid group, it might be different. But you're there at your own free will and your own free accord. And if you cannot be respectful to me or other people in my group, I don't have to let you in there. And I have banned people left and right because of violation of those things. So I tell group owners, don't be afraid to kick people out. If they get mad, what are they going to do? Go to somebody and say, oh, I went in there and started a fight and they kicked me out? Come on, really? Is somebody going to stand up for you for that? They're not. Because at the end of the day, this is your business and you have the right to run it as you see fit. But you don't have to respond to them. Sometimes if somebody leaves a snarky comment, I'll kill them with kindness, because sometimes that de-escalates. So that's a great thing to do. Other times, like you were just alluding to, Jason, when you said you posted and this one person said, well, who are you to have the right? My fans and my group members will come to my defense so quickly it'll make your head spin. So you can sometimes leave it alone and let the people in your group come in to defend you or a statement you've made, because then that's showing other people that this is a community and there's support here, and that mama bear or daddy bear is going to come out and we're going to defend our own, and we're not going to let you do this.
Yeah, I found that the time that I put in when the group was growing for me was really worth it in the long run, that it's very clear what is acceptable and what's not acceptable in my group. My group's called Exploring Sous Vide. It's about using sous vide in interesting, fun ways. And like you're saying, we have rules. And one of the rules is you can't say like why. Like if you say, I tried sous videing X, you can't say why. You can say like, oh, I'm curious why you thought you'd want to do, like if it's an actual question, you can, but if you're like, why the heck would you sous vide that? Like, you're out of the group. And so people mark everyone's comments whenever people are doing that. And, I let a few go if they're newer or if they don't quite know what's going on. But if it's just snarky and they're just being a jerk, that someone said, hey, I tried a neat experiment, and their first response they get is like, why would you do that? Those people aren't going to post again. They're not going to come back. They might leave the group. So supporting these people that are putting themselves out there. They're not all food bloggers like we are. And even for us, it can be nerve-wracking to put ourselves out there. They're sharing something and then people are jumping on what they just said. They're not going to post again. So I think creating that environment that people are like, no, this is the type of group that we have. We support each other and we're here to have fun and explore it's paid off now that we have way too many people that I could moderate on my own.
Yeah, and the other thing it comes back to is people want to feel safe online. There's so much danger and so much junk out there that this is their safe place. I mean, spend 10 minutes on any of the news networks' feeds, and you're going to see trolls highly in action and engaged. And with everything that's going on in our world, we need an escape from that. we're trying like, okay, yes, I need to pay attention for my own family safety and to take care of myself. But you know what? I need to step away from that. And I want a place where that's not happening, where I feel safe, I feel secure, and I feel protected. And so as group owners, if we're not providing that, we're doing our members a disservice. One other thing we want to make sure we do too is Facebook watches what happens. And if it sees negative things and drama and whatnot, it could ding your group. One thing under your insights you can see is if you've been reported or anything has happened within your group. You don't want that, because if that's happening, then Facebook's going to go, yeah, you might be engaged, but I still don't want to show you to anybody because you kind of got some bad stuff happening here. We don't want that to happen. Again, let's keep Facebook happy.
So one thing that always comes up, regardless of the platform, regardless of anything when you're talking about blogging, is it possible to monetize your group in some way?
Of course it is. So there's a lot of things we do. One thing I recommend to every group owner, when you set up those questions, you should ask them, hey, would you like to join my email list? If so, drop your email here. Collect that email right from the start. I can't tell you how many I add every single day to grow my list. It's crazy. And then I put them in a specific Facebook funnel. They don't go to my regular one. It's all Facebook related because these people don't know me yet if they're coming from Facebook, and they're like, okay, I'll get on your list, but I introduce them. So that's one way. And then they're on your email list and you monetize that way. You can run sales on your products and you can put them in there. Providing links to things work. One thing that's really great is if somebody's asking for a solution to a problem, let's say they're saying, okay, I need to, I'm wanting to invest in a food processor, but I don't know which one's the best. What you can do is include an affiliate link. Now you can't do Amazon in a group because those don't work, but you could provide an affiliate link to a product from a provider and someone could buy that way. You can share links to your content that's helpful and then they'll click over to that content. But I also, even though we have that email at the beginning, I will use emails and create up challenges and funnels, and I'll share those occasionally. Like I literally did that today in my group. Hey, you guys having this problem? I've got this free challenge for you. And within 10 minutes, I had like 8 people sign up for it. So those people, again, they're moving from the Facebook group to my list, which is where I'm trying to sell to them. So that is how we're monetizing our groups, is through affiliates, our products, and our links without being all smarmy and salesy and sleazy about it, and making sure it's natural and organic. And again, when they trust you, guess what? If they love you and you're like, oh my gosh, guys, I just bought this new spatula and you have to use it, guess what? They're all going to click and want to buy that spatula just because you said so.
I think a lot of bloggers get nervous putting, affiliate links out there, links to their content that's more salesy, that's like, hey, I have this course, and they're like, well, I feel weird, just trying to sell stuff. And it's fun in a group, I think, when you're having a conversation with someone. They're like, oh, well, what mixer are you talking about? It's like, well, here's a link. You don't have any of that like worry, or it's just like when a friend says, can you send me a link to the restaurant? And you send them a link because they just asked for it. It is very mentally refreshing, I think.
It is. And I find the more natural and organic you can be, the better. So I make sure that I find that even mix between self-promotion and engaging content. And so we'll do fun things. Like we did one the other day. Guys, I'm a blogging group, and we're like, what's your favorite dessert? And people had so much fun with that. And it got my engagement up. But it kind of was like that mental break from all the thinking about blogging. Let's just do something fun. But it's just, we do those fun things. We ask silly questions and things like that just to get engagement up. And then when someone, I leave all the questions for promoting myself, responding to what other people are asking. So I'm not coming in there link dropping. I'm link dropping in solution to questions. So then it's so very natural and organic, and I don't feel smarmy and salesy and like I'm self-promoting. But you do have to overcome that somewhat and realize this is your business. And if you are not telling people who you are and what you're about, guess what? They'll find somebody who does. So you have to put yourself out there, and you've got to be vulnerable once in a while. And if people leave your group because you posted a link to an article, you want to know what? They probably would never have bought a single thing you ever promoted anyhow. So good riddance. If you're not going to engage with my content and you're not going to buy my products, I don't want you here anyway. So you have to change it to a business mindset and not a personal mindset when it comes to your group. That's key in knowing what works and doesn't, and finding the confidence that what I'm doing is working for my business. And if you don't like it, oh well, too bad, so sad.
It's a great way to curate a group of fans, because if you try to please everyone, you won't please anyone.
Exactly. And honestly, I find that the fans, they appreciate that too, right? It's like the more that you can do that in a way that's helpful. I will literally have people now, they'll come in and say, hey, I want to sign up for this service. Can I please have your affiliate link? Literally coming to me saying, I want to buy this and I want you to make money from me, because they're grateful. And that's how a lot of people look at this, is you've created this community and this group. The simple way they can thank you for your time is literally clicking on a link and buying a product so you can make money. And a lot of people start to realize that as time goes on, and they want to help you and they want to provide that feedback, if you will, in a way that makes sense and grows your income, because that's how they can make that happen.
It's a great relationship when you have your fans trying to help you make money because they want more of what you're giving them, and providing great, valuable content to them.
Absolutely. That is definitely where the magic happens. And it's one of these things that's not going to happen instantly. So I have to remind people, everything takes time. You're going to start small. You're going to, if you have a new group, get in other groups and just start engaging so people will find you. Promote it on your email list. Do things like that. Even if nobody's really in there, start asking questions. Start putting stuff happening in your group so that when people do find it, they see there's something happening. Because if I join a group that's crickets, I'm out of there. But if I join a group, even if a lot of people haven't engaged, there's at least something happening in there, and that might give me some purpose for sticking around. So make sure you're doing that when you're getting started with your group.
I think it's great advice. I'm going to make a few changes to my group just to see if I can maximize a few of the things we have going on. It's definitely it's interesting to see how groups change as they get bigger too. It's mine's at about 40,000 now people, and it's just like the amount of content and posts and comments going through on a daily basis is just, it's crazy how many people are in there using it every day.
Yeah, and it's exciting at the same time. Now, one thing I do advise, if you get to that point, you guys might want somebody help running your group. Don't go out looking for somebody else. Look within your group. Look for that one person who's like liking almost everything you say, or they're commenting on all the threads because they are highly engaged in the group. And that's a really easy person to transition into an admin type of a role to help monitor for those hate comments, the spam, and things like that. And they can help monitor your group so you don't have to be present all of the time. Small income, gift cards, things like that can be a great way to get those people wanting to be involved. But again, if they're already fans and they love you and you're like, hey, would you help me run my group? They're probably going to say, oh my gosh, yes, I'm in there all the time. Anyway, I'd love to help. So don't be afraid to use the people in your group to help run it.
It's also bringing in an outsider, unless you're a very generic group, which probably you're not going to be big enough to need help with. Unless you're generic, someone coming in from the outside, it's hard for them to understand your culture. It's hard to have knowledge. Like, I can't just bring in a food blogger, even a good food blogger, to help with my Sous Vide group, because they don't know answers to the Sous Vide questions. They don't know what is relevant, what's not relevant, what articles are already existing out there. But someone in the group that's been there for a few years knows, what is out there, what the typical response is, and how to really communicate your message to the people in the group.
Absolutely. And I think that's just so important, because if somebody's going to be acting on your behalf in your absence, you need to make sure they're genuine, authentic, and operate on that same belief system with those same morals and values that you've established for the group to continue that going. So you can step away with confidence knowing, hey, my group's in good hands. People are going to be taken care of.
It's very important. You don't want just someone random in there making you look bad, because people will associate you with your group. So
absolutely. You get connected with the good, the bad, and the ugly. So that's why you've got to stay on top of it.
So at the IFBC, you talked about sponsored posts.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that a lot of food bloggers have heard about, but from some polls I've done, not many do that. They are interested, but they really don't know how to get started. Can you talk a little bit about how a food blogger that wants to do a sponsored post, wants to work with a brand, can go about finding a few initial companies to work with?
Absolutely. So I always tell people when you're just starting out, there's a couple of different avenues you can go. The first one is using a network. Now we have to realize with the networks, those networks have to be paid, right? So the fee that you're paid is often less than what you would get should you do that post directly one-on-one with the brand. And that's because the middleman has to take their cut. But I like recommending them because I think it's a great way to get yourself started, to understand how they work, what brands are looking for, and to just dip your toes into those waters. One of them I like is called Tap Influence. It's really good. You can sign up with them. And when brands are looking for somebody to blog about their product or their service, they will find you through them, which is really great. The other option is to look to work with brands directly. Let's say you're a baker and you always use Land O'Lakes butter for everything. It's like the only butter you use. It would make sense for you to reach out to Land O'Lakes and say, you know what, your butter is all I use. I run this food blog. I'd love to work with you to create an original recipe or collection of recipes around your butter. And then you can work on that negotiation and go that way. So look to your blog to see what you're already doing or what you could talk about that works for your readers. All too often, I find people wanting to do sponsored posts, but it's not a fit, right? If I'm a food blogger and someone from Dave Ramsey's team wants to work with me on their Every Dollar app, how is that helping me or my readers? It's not. Even though they might offer me huge bucks, I have to say no because it's not going to work. So that's kind of how we get started. Is one of those two ways are usually the simplest because that way then you're getting to work with the brands you want to work with directly.
I think it's a great point that you had about, both with sponsored posts and affiliate links. I think it's so critical that you're promoting products that you believe in, that you've hopefully used, and that it's something that I use the Thanksgiving dinner test, that when I feel comfortable recommending this to my mother-in-law, knowing I have to spend Thanksgiving dinner sitting across the table from her.
That's a great analogy and a great way to look at it, because I think so often bloggers get hung up in the almighty dollar and they see somebody wants to pay them and they're missing the forest for the trees, because our readers aren't stupid. They are very intuitive. And especially those who've been around for a while, they're going to tell if you're being disingenuous on your post and that you're just wrote this just to make a buck, and they're not going to like it. And they're going to have their noses turned up and could potentially leave, and you would lose that potential reader as a result of that. So we don't want to do that. It just don't do it. I just can't stress that enough.
So what size should a blogger start exploring sponsored posts?
I tell people try to have at least, I like you to be getting 50 to 100 page views a day at the least. So you're looking at around that, 2,500, 3,000 page view mark. And the reason for that is you need to be able to show a brand that people are looking at your content, right? If you're getting no page views, they're going to go, okay, I don't know if I want to work with you or not. No one's seeing this. So that's step one. Step two is going to be social media, but not so much numbers on social media as engagement. And I think that's the one aspect a lot of bloggers overlook. They see these groups or these people that have 100,000 fans on Facebook or on Instagram, and they're thinking, man, they must be able to charge a lot. Not necessarily, because if those 100,000 only 2% see anything or only 2% are engaged, there's not as much value there. Whereas somebody could have 10,000 and their engagement rate is through the roof on their content, that person could potentially charge more. So make sure you consider both factors, your engagement as well as your page views. Now, I do recommend on your social, try to have around 1,000 people following you on all sources combined, because that's going to show at least some engagement on those different platforms. At least you'll have some idea what's happening. And if that engagement's not where you want, that lets you know, hey, you know what? I need to work on improving my engagement over here on Instagram or whatever platform it is. So that's kind of my rule of thumb. And it came from what I've learned from a lot of brands over the years and kind of what they're looking for, because they don't mind new bloggers, but they need new bloggers who have at least proven themselves a little bit.
So if they've found a brand that they want to work with, the brand is interested in doing something, it's something they believe in, how do you, as a blogger, figure out what to charge? Because it can be anywhere from, $10, or people will try to do it for free, up through, 10,000, 100,000. If you're Kim Kardashian, $1 million for a post.
Yeah.
So how do you figure out where you are between 0 and 1 million?
Okay, so my rule of thumb, and this is based on what I believe bloggers should do. Your post has value. I don't care if you have been blogging for 3 months. It still takes your time to type that article, add the links, proof it, get the pins ready, promote it on social. And the time it takes is zero different than somebody who has been blogging for 10 years. That general time is the same no matter what. So I always tell people to start at $250 minimum, because that is your time. Because think about that. It's probably going to take you 3 or 4 hours to get everything done, right? So break that down into an hourly rate, and then it seems a little more reasonable. I think when I say that to people, they're like, well, I can't charge $250. And I'm like, well, yeah, but if it's going to take you, 5 hours to get everything done, that's only $50 an hour. Then they're like, oh, that does sound reasonable. That's where we start. Then we get to use other factors on top of that. We get to increase the more engagement we have on our Facebook, our Instagram, and things like that. We can charge more. If we have a YouTube channel where we're going to do something, we can charge. If we're going to include them in our newsletter, we can charge. If we have more page views, we can charge. So basically you start at a base and you keep adding all these other features on top of it to reach an overall figure that you're comfortable with presenting to your potential sponsor to say, hey, I'm going to charge you, $2,700 for this post, and here's everything you're going to get.
So you do the post, it goes well in your mind, you think it was successful. What can you do to kind of communicate that to the brand to leave this one transaction on a good footing?
I always recommend that as soon as you've published on all of your socials and everywhere, immediately notify the brand and say, hey, here you go, here's all my links. And you give them every link so they can review it. And I always word it as, hey, I've got everything here. If you find something that needs to be changed, please let me know as soon as possible. Because that's telling them I've done everything I'm supposed to, but I want you to be happy with what I've done. So I do that. Then I wait for about 10 days after the campaign is over, and I will follow up with a closure thing. And I will say, hey, we've wrapped up the campaign. You've gotten your invoice already. Here's your final results. And I will send them a recap link to the article. I will show him how many page views they got. I will include links to the different social. I will include reach. I will share shares, clicks, and things like that, where they're getting a little bit of stats directly from me to let them analyze if the campaign worked in the way that they wanted or not. And what's really interesting is that a lot of times these brands, they work with PR firms. And so even if you're working directly with Land O'Lakes Butter and you're not through their PR firm, well, they do have one. And if they go to their PR firm and they're working on something and say, well, I worked with Jason and he was so awesome. You know what? You just got your foot in the door with a PR firm that could lead to unbelievable results. That happened to me. I did one random campaign for somebody, ended up with one of the largest PR firms in the nation. And it was nothing for me to get 2 and 3 requests from them a month asking me to do sponsored content. I had to turn down a lot of it because it was too much, but it was amazing how that one small thing opened up this huge door of opportunity for me.
It's a good reminder to be nice and pleasant and kind in all of your interactions, because you never know who is going to hear about what you were doing.
Yeah, I always believe, especially when you're running your business, you want to over-deliver. You don't want to tell them up front, hey, I'm going to give you this fancy report at the end. No, don't tell them that's what they get. You give that to them, and then they're thinking, oh my gosh, this was the best decision we ever made. They went above and beyond. So you look really good in that brand's eyes. So that's just always been my belief when it comes to my business. And I think if we can have that one simple post we do, we don't know where it can lead. because I work with major brands. One of them was Staples, and I did a holiday campaign with them. And I did such a good job and gave them so much information, and it was helpful that, you know what, they came back to me the following summer for a massive back to school campaign. So that one brand earned me thousands of dollars just between those two campaigns that I ran, because I was able to go above and beyond, and it made them want to work with me more than once.
And a lot of people involved in marketing seem to move around a lot. That you might do a good job with Staples, and that person might leave to go to Office Max or wherever, and now you have another deal with them because they want to work with you.
Yeah, because PR people do not stay set in one place for very long. They are constantly hopping from place to place. So yeah, you definitely have to make sure that you're always doing everything you should. Now, if it does come up where you have a bad situation, and I had this happen once, I had the campaign got turned over to somebody else because somebody quit. And the person came back and was trying to pull some stuff with me. And I just called and got their manager. And I basically explained to him what was happening. And his exact response was, they wanted to do everything to make me happy because they saw value in what I was doing. And so you can still, push if you're getting a little bit of pushback and you aren't comfortable, but you can do so with respect.
I think that's very, very, poignant, that being nice and being kind doesn't mean letting people walk over you or not ask for what you deserve. It's just doing it in a way that you're not being a jerk about it.
Exactly. It's all perception.
So I wanted to talk too about a few years ago, you sold your blog that you'd been working on for almost a decade, right?
Yes.
How did that come about? I'm sure that's in the back of a lot of food bloggers' minds. Like, I could see someday wanting to offload what I've been working on.
Yeah. So several years ago, it was about 2016, I decided that I would kind of branch into some coaching because I had been asked all the time, hey, can you help me learn how to blog? And I kept saying, I'm not a blogger that's teaching about blogging. And I kept putting people off. But it started just coming up all of the time. And at that point, I was answering questions, and I had more people saying, do you have coaching and things? And I thought, well, maybe I should pursue this. Casually mentioned to a friend of mine at a conference, hey, I might sell my blog. I just haven't found anybody, I'm not sure. He reached out the following July and said, you know what? I'm working with somebody who's looking at purchasing blogs, and they would like to talk to you. And I said, great, give me an introduction. We had our first phone call, and the minute I got off of the phone with them, I knew these were people I was comfortable selling my blog to. And I think that's so important. If you're going to sell, you have to have confidence that the person you're selling to is going to maybe align with what your goals are, because we've seen too many times you sell a blog and they get torn apart, they fall apart, and then the creator is just devastated they sold. But basically, we went through this whole process of negotiations. They signed the contract with me in October and took over. And what's really crazy about that is I am now a freelancer and write articles and get paid to write in a blog I sold. So I still can write a little bit, and they're paying me per post. So it's great. So for me, it was a win-win. I still get to keep my toes dipped in that content, but I'm not responsible. So I think that like I said, you have to be ready to sell, and you have to make sure that you've put everything in place so that somebody wants to buy it, that it is appealing to people. You want to make sure you have good social, you have really good SEO, and you have good meat and potatoes, not at the dinner table, but right there in your blog.
How do you go about finding a price for the blog with so many different moving parts and different aspects, and some recurring, some that you have to sell every single time you do it? How'd that process work?
So what we agreed on was 3 times my gross income. And I stress gross because my expenses were not necessarily going to be their expenses. They might have different things they don't need to pay for. They might have other things that they need to. So you have to realize that. So if somebody's looking at your net income, that's really not fair to you or them, because they could make less because they have more expenses, or they can make more, which gives your site more value.
And the gross is everything that came in before you take out the expenses.
Right. Before you pay a single thing for your hosting, your email list, anything like that. How much money is literally coming into your blog? So I took that 2.5 to 3 times is kind of a good average, because that signals that it's going to take them a few years, obviously, to make back their investment, but they know that it's right there on the horizon, that they're going to see that, because we're not going to give our blogs away for nothing. And we're also, we love them and we might think it's worth $1 million, but is it really worth $1 million? So you really want to come up with a fair valuation.
Makes a lot of sense. And so now you're doing coaching. How has that been? Has it been a good transition?
Yes, I absolutely love it. And I was telling my husband, I said, it took me all those years to figure out what I was destined to do. And I think it's because when I first started out, we didn't have Facebook back then. We didn't have Facebook groups like we talked about. And it was literally Googling. Google, how do I make a drop-down menu? Google, how do I, sign up, make an email sign up? Those types of things, because we didn't have resources. And I remember emailing other bloggers, even within my niche, saying, how did you make a drop-down? Or how did you do this? I got crickets. Nobody helped me. I would break my site, literally break it, and cry and stay up late and get up early. And I just felt so alone. And I always kept thinking that there's got to be somebody who's out there who's willing to help. And I said, if I ever figure this out, I'm never going to let any person ever feel like I did. And that's still my philosophy. I don't care if I've been asked the same question 27 times today alone. I'll still answer it as if it's the first time I've been asked, because people don't know what they don't know. So they have questions, and nobody should be shamed in asking a question. And so that's my whole philosophy. So I absolutely love it. And when I get the emails from people that they finally figured something out or whatnot, and it's funny, yesterday we did a live in my group. I was just talking about Pinterest. And one of the people there, she said, I love waiting for you to respond because you're the calm in the storm. And so it's given me that great thing that it's like, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm making sure that the people approach things rationally and they go about the right way, because I've made a lot of mistakes. Nobody wants to make my mistakes, trust me. So if I can prevent somebody else from doing that, then I'm all over it. But I love it, and I truly could not imagine doing anything else at this point.
I'm glad the transition's going well for you. And so you have a lot of courses for bloggers.
Yes, I
what
do.
are your most popular ones?
The most popular ones we have are Sponsored Success, which we kind of talked a little bit about that. And that is where I pull back the curtain. I show you how to find sponsors. I have a calculator in there that you literally plug in a few numbers. It tells you exactly how much you can charge. It has swipe copy, media kits, all those things. Another one that's extremely popular is called Product Perfection. And that's selling products, digital products, because that's such an easy way to make money. It's passive. Cookbooks, printables, downloads, those types of things. And so I help people analyze what you can make, how to make it, how to price it, how to sell it, and how to market. And so all of those different strategies. So those are probably my most popular. The other one that has had thousands of people sign up for is actually my free one, which is called the Profitable Blogging Roadmap. Kind of a tongue twister. But it is literally a free course to tell people how to get started. Because when you start, you have to invest in hosting and domain and different things. And so I wanted people to have a free way to learn some of the basics before they are ready to invest in learning how to run a blog, because I think that's really, really important. Those are probably the most popular ones I've got, but I think I've got 10 or 12 courses at this point that I'm offering on all sorts of topics. Every course is 100% written by me and shares exactly what I have done. I don't let anybody write my courses for me because I don't think that's really doing a service to my clients.
And then you also have a membership site. Is that correct?
Yes, we do. We have a coaching group, really affordable, where people can come in and we do 3 times a month. I do a live and I do a teaching session. This week we talked about landing pages and I help people with their landing pages. We analyze them and I looked right at one of mine and I said, you need to change this and do this. So I literally help people build their content. This fall or the beginning of the year, I haven't decided when I'm launching, we're doing a blog reboot, where we are going to go back and basically revisit everything on setting up your blog and just make sure that everything is still working and whatnot. These little things that after we've been blogging for time, we forget to check. But yeah, we have that one. I also offer an advanced one, which is higher level education. This week we had an expert come in to teach how to run Facebook ads. So we kind of have these two different tiers, because if you're just starting out, you're not ready to do some of the more advanced marketing techniques that you will once you've been blogging for 18 to 24 months. And then we have the free group as well. I also offer one-on-one coaching where people can book a session and either 30 minutes or an hour, and it is literally anything you want me to tell you and help you with. I will get in there and I will literally show people, here's everything I'm doing in ConvertKit, and show all of my systems. I don't hide that stuff from people. I do blog audits where I analyze your entire site, top to bottom, backwards, forwards, upside down, help you find holes, make improvements, and find ways to monetize. So it's all these things that I'm doing, and it's just so much fun for me. It's not work, it's just fun.
I love talking about business too. It's a joy for me, and it's so nice looking at. It can be easy looking at other people's problems, and compared to looking at your own, which is always hard to solve. Yeah. So it's having a coach or someone like a mastermind group to bounce ideas off of can really bring insights that you can really struggle to find on your own.
Absolutely. And the thing is, I know we all want things for free. I get that. We all want to be effective when it comes to our business. But I feel like the more that we're willing to invest in our education, that is a business expense. And you have to have that business mindset. Because if you don't know how to, let's say, run an email list, your email list is key to marketing. So at small investment, let's say you pay $100, $150 for a course, it's probably not going to take you long to make that money back, and then you're running profit. So if you're willing to invest in your education up front, it can take you so much further in your business to places you probably only dreamt of.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I've figured out down the road. I've been blogging for about a decade as well, and things that I figured out that if I would have known earlier, it would have accelerated things a lot more.
Exactly. And it's so fun because I'll see people who are in their third year of blogging who are where I were in like seventh or eighth, just because I've been able to help them just systematically put those steps into place to get them where they want to go. So yeah, blogging's a lot of fun. I think that it's definitely not for everyone. And I'm somebody who says that I don't think everybody can blog, but I think if you can do that and you're blogging your passion and what you love, it's like you're not working at all.
I think that's a great sentiment to end the podcast on. If people have more questions, they can reach you at Tracie at traciefobes.com or the Blogger Education Network group on Facebook.
Yep, that's right. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions whatsoever. And I always say, if I don't know the answer, I'll find somebody who does.
Well, thank you so much for coming on Makin Bacon. I appreciate learning from everything that you just talked about, some amazing insights. And I think if anyone found benefit in what we just talked about, be sure to check out all of Tracie's content out there.
Thanks for having me, Jason. This was so much fun.
Thank you. This has been Makin Bacon, all about helping you serve your fans, grow your income, and get the most out of your blog. Till next time, I'm Jason Logston. Whenever a group of people gets to a certain size, someone's always going to act out. This video is going to show you how you can handle misbehaving members of your group so you don't get bogged down in their negativity.